Okay, hey, welcome to the channel. I apologize. My last video, unfortunately, I thought the mic was working. It looks like it wasn't working. That's what happens when you mess around with a few things. But anyways, um, to go back to what I was talking about, or to recap what I was talking about, maybe going a little into depth as well too. Thinking about basically how she lost the race, there are a few reasons why. One of the main reasons, and I think this is the main reason, is basically Joe Biden. Let's be honest. You don't want to take anything away from what he's done, but at the same time, this is a man that he's 80 years old. When he first started, he said he wanted to, when he first came in to run for president, he said he wanted to be that bridge to not only beat Trump, but also be the bridge to the younger generation, i.e., Harris or whoever it may be. That didn't happen. He wanted to he wanted to do a second term because he felt that one, he needed the power, he wanted it, or two, the fact is like he thought he was the only one that could beat Donald Trump, which is strongly possible because let's be honest. I mean, from his perspective, he thought beat Trump, maybe okay, and then there's no way Trump, the Republican Party is gonna choose one a guy that pretty much incited the insurrection on January 6th, 2020, as well as two multiple indictments. So I don't think he was a case where like he was figuring like there's no way a guy of that nature will therefore become a Republican candidate. Lo and behold, that wasn't the case. Hence, he becomes the new. Hence, he becomes a candidate. Of course, becomes the president. But because he became the candidate, I don't know if Biden should have just stepped away or to, not, step down and let a primary happen. Because I hate to say this, which is partly another reason, which is one that was one. I guess this you call this 1A. Whereas the fact is like it was Kamala Harris that was chosen after Biden's goof up during the debate. That everyone pretty much forced him to like step down. Let's be honest, this guy did not want to step down. He still felt he had the better chance of beating Trump, even though he flubbed the first debate. I think he felt he had a shot at beating Trump, which is a possibility. But the aspect is like by giving Kamala Harris the ability to become the presidential nominee, I think one, it broke away from traditional primaries from that perspective. Apologies. Because the fact is, let's be honest, she wasn't really elected to be chosen as the nominee for the Democratic Party. She was pretty much just nominated rather than winning through a primary. And because of that, I think there were some aspects where people were like, wait, what just happened? Now, granted, let's give her the benefit, let's give her some credit. She did it within 100 days of garnering enough attention and momentum that for a while there, she was neck and neck with Trump. It's just the aspect of that, but then which also comes to 1B, where basically I don't think the country is ready for a female president. I mean, let's be honest, it was the same case with Hillary. Now, you might say, it's like, well, hold on, Hillary did win the nomination by beating Bernie Sanders in the primary. Yes, but she beat Bernie Sanders. Here's the thing. There wasn't enough of a pool of candidates that were running against her at that time. Let's say if there was Tim Kaine, or for that matter, I don't know, outside of Bernie Sanders, someone that was more towards the middle, that wasn't too far right, someone in the middle, that was a moderate liberal. I'm trying to think of someone. Even if Joe Biden, let's say Joe Biden had run, chances are Joe Biden would have beaten Hillary Clinton. It's just that everyone felt the momentum was going towards her route because she was so qualified. But the problem is someone probably that would not have been qualified, probably would have beaten her. Let's be honest. Someone probably would have beaten her in the primaries outside of Bernie. Because let's be honest, Bernie Sanders was getting enough momentum that he took away a lot of the votes from the perspective of that. I think people were not ready for Clinton to be president, but they were ready for maybe someone else. It's just that Hillary had so much endorsements, had so much momentum on her part, and that's why she got the nomination. But then when she went against Trump, she lost because Trump beat a woman. And again, he beat another woman, which in this case is Kamala Harris. If I think someone said basically, I forget which program it was, but someone says like, if it was a Tom Harris instead of a Kamala Harris, if it was a Tom Harris, it's possible that that person could have beaten Donald Trump. It's possible, strongly possible that that person could have beaten Donald Trump because I mean, everyone might say, oh, it's all race. Is it? Because yes, it was a case of yeah, she's half black, half Indian, but the reality is you had Obama. The country was ready for a minority president. I think they weren't ready for a female minority president. And I think we still got a ways to go for that because let's be honest, the country is still a chauvinistic, male-driven country. You don't see it as, I mean, if that was the case, you would see far more female senators, far more congresswomen being, elected, and far more governors for that matter. And there's not a hell of a lot considering basically. So that's why the things is why I think we're not ready at that point. Like let's look closely at, let's say, Florida. Florida, I don't think has ever had a female governor. New York, now we do have one. But that was only by, de facto practically. California, I can't remember. I don't think California has ever had a female governor. Illinois has never had a female governor. Some of the states, the Sun Belt states, the Rust Belt states, and such, I don't think they've had a female governor, or a female senator for that matter, in some cases. So let's look closely at that. So I think that's the reason why mostly that was another reason why I think the country was not ready for a female president. But again, and that's what it comes down that from that perspective. And then you could lead on to another aspect as well too, where basically the country, I think, was getting tired of Kamala Harris basically beating down with the agenda of like the abortion rights. Even I myself was getting tired. I'm like, come on, woman. I mean, honestly, look at it this way. Everyone knew the economy was more important than the rights at this point. Like everyone's saying, oh, democracy and human rights. Yes, no, but the aspect is like everyone's caring more about the economy. Everyone is selfish. I'm selfish. I'm more of a case of like, look, some people are like struggling to like, make ends meet. They have to like do 2 or 3 jobs just to make ends meet. So the reality is it doesn't really work out from that perspective of like, try to like, are you going to care about someone like aborting a child or not aborting a child versus living out on the streets? Which do you choose? I mean, streets, I think living in the streets, I think, having flush cash would be a higher priority there. And she was never focused on. I mean, yeah, there were parts that were, but at the same time, it wasn't. And because of that, I think she was so focused on that than on the economy that everyone was so concerned about. Because, like, let's be honest. Look at it this way. You had the Latinos in Pennsylvania, the high Latino population, as well as other parts of the country. That rally in Madison Square Garden pretty much insulted every Latino. Every Latino should have been insulted by that statement. And what happens? They still voted for Trump. Why? Because I think they don't care about the disparaging remarks just yet. It's more so if this man can keep a dollar in their pocket, I think that's all that matters to them. Like, they'd rather have that dollar. Right now, there's no dollar in their pocket. So, like, that's more of the reason why they were going for the economic perspective than the actual, forget his character. If he helps me, helps keep the country flush in cash, meaning like keep everyone's pockets lined up, it's great for them at that point. Now, it'll be interesting to see what happens once Trump comes into, once Trump pretty much transitions as the president and he enacts the tariffs that he was talking about. People might be thinking, it's like, oh, look, hey, look, he's not going to raise our taxes. He's actually going to cut our taxes. So I will have more money. But in reality is, I don't think that's the case. With these tariffs, and I think people still don't understand tariffs, it's going to affect us considerably. Because, like, the best example I could come up with is basically if a coffee beans coming in from Southern America, we can't grow it here. There's no way we can grow it here. I mean, we could try, but not as rich and flavorful as from the South, Southern America, that is. If they sell it to us for a quarter, and then you get it as a quarter, and you're like, all right, I could give you a cup of Joe for like $1, maybe $1.25 to get that dollar profit. So $1 to $1.25, hey, everyone's happy. You make 75 cents to $1 profit. Now, with the tariffs in place, countries are like, all right, fine. Instead of charging 25 cents, I'm going to charge you 75 cents because, hey, look, I got to pay these tariffs, so I need to make that difference. So I'm going to give you 75 cents. I'm going to charge you 75 cents. You as the coffee buyer basically is like, okay, it's 75 cents. I'm like, all right, are they going to sell you the normal cup of Joe, the diners, $1 for a cup of Joe or $1.25 a cup of Joe? Because, like, let's be honest, you had from a 75 cents to $1 profit. Now it's brought down to like a nickel. I mean, a quarter to 50 cents. I mean, honestly, they're going to say, you know what? The hell with this. I'm going to raise my price. So instead of it being $1.25, I'm going to make it $1.50 or $1.75. And hence, prices go up. So like me as the consumer or you as a consumer, basically what you're saying is like, yeah, I'm not paying taxes. But in reality is, technically you are because you're paying that extra fee at that point. So like it's still coming out of your paycheck. Now, if there was less tariffs and a little bit of taxes, now put it this way. You have $10 and they tax you those $10 of, like let's say $1 out of it. All right, you're only spending $1, so that leaves you with $9. But now, if they said like, yeah, we're gonna but from a perspective like now paying a cup of Joe, where it's gonna be $1.75, well, now you're down to basically instead of $1 paying $1, now you're down. So like instead of having $8. Now you only have $7 remaining on your pocket. Well, and the reason I'd like the math is basically this: not only are you paying $1.75 to $2, possibly $2 for the cup of Joe, but you're also still paying those taxes because you're still paying. Let's say that he said he wasn't going to raise the taxes, but he's still going to still keep the tax. If he drops the taxes, great. But the problem is it's by how much because you're still going to be taxed. He's not going to eliminate tax. Let's be honest. He's not eliminating tax from you. He's still going to keep it, or he's going to drop it just by 10%. So that to the point where like instead of paying $1 in tax, you might be paying 90 cents. But because you're paying 90 cents in tax plus the extra $1.75, you're down to like pretty much $7 and change at that point versus having $8 and change, having $8 from that perspective. Or sorry, $6 and change versus $8 and change, $8. Well, whatever it may be, but you understand my point. It's a little long day right now too. I'm a little tired and like just too much going on with work. Anyways, and that's the same thing. And that's just coffee. Let's not forget our phones and our PCs, laptops and such, monitors, the things that are inside, we can produce the raw materials unless we suddenly get a high lithium deposit that's been discovered in the United States. It's all coming from China. And remember, he wants to tariff China the most. So all these little parts, they're going to go up, which means these phones are like your iPhone, which is like bare minimum right now, $999. It's going to go up from $999 to $1,500. Are you willing to spend $1,500, an extra $500 for that base model phone? Or are you willing to pay, the $999? And he's going to say, well, no, like we're charging tonight, so like we're getting the money back at that, you don't have to pay the taxes. But yet you are because you're paying the extra fee. $1,500 is like a choice, but in reality, it's probably going to be higher than that. And you're not going to know. The fact is like they're going to charge you $1,500. But the same aspect is as well, too. Apple, being the fact that like, hey, we don't have to pay that extra money because like he's going to cut the taxes for us businessmen. They're going to go down. So they're going to still keep that profit. So if they drop the taxes for them, they should be lowering the price. But because they're keeping they're going to use the tariff as an excuse. So it's like, I need to be $1,500. So reality is like dropping their taxes and increasing that price, they increase their margins even more. And they get much more revenue at that point. And we as the consumers are going to be screwed as a result. And we're not going to see it because well, we're going to think like, hey, we're going to be flush with cash. And the assumption is like, and you're going to say, it's like, well, that's not true. Well, yes, it is. We're seeing with the gas company, oil companies. Look at the oil companies. Look what they're doing. You're thinking that they're going to drop the prices for per gallon for gasoline? It's not going to happen unless there's a massive decrease. It's not happening. It's going to be where it is, and they're going to maximize prospect. And the best part is, here's the best part: they're going to use the tariffs as a part of it's like, yeah, you know what? We're getting these oil companies we're getting from OPEC, they're getting tariffed. They're going to increase the price at that point, so we're going to be paying more. And the best part is, here's the best part: if what happens to true, now you might say like, yeah, Elon Musk will probably help out for the EV part. Yes and no, because reality is like they're going to repeal as much of the EV incentives so that hey, all these EV incentives that you're going to get, tax breaks or whatever it may be, that's going to go bye bye, and then EV companies, they're not going to like lower the prices of their cars. They're going to still keep them as is. You're going to still have to pay that difference at that point. Whatever. So let's say the $7,500 credit you're going to get. Now you're going to be paying the $7,500 credit instead of getting a credit. You're going to be debiting $7,500. So look at it from that perspective. But yeah. Now another perspective is this. Yeah, true. People were probably tired to the point of like, hey, look, we don't. Yeah. Granted, Trump is basically a criminal, pretty much. It's to a point where like they're remembering the yesteryear, basically his first term from 2017 till 2020 before the pandemic hit. I mean, like everyone pretty much had money in their pocket, practically had money in their pocket. I mean, the economy looked, it was good, it was strong at that point before the pandemic hit. But it's possible if the pandemic doesn't hit, it's possible that the inflation still goes up at that point. Because like based on everything that he was imposing, that would have probably gone up at that point as well too. And like I think Biden pretty much inherited the inflation from Trump. Trump basically were 2017 to 2018. Why it was so good? Because he inherited everything from Obama. So let's be honest about that. He inherited everything from Obama. That's why it was doing so well. 2019, 2020, you start seeing things going up at that point. And unfortunately, Biden inherited it. Had Trump still remained the same, he probably would have blamed the pandemic. He probably would have blamed the pandemic as a result of that. It's like, oh, it's the pandemic. That's why inflation. It'll be interesting to see what happens if inflation still stays the same or if it drops. If it drops, great, but I doubt it's going to drop. I think it's going to still stay the same. But in any case, to that point, everyone's probably remembering from that perspective of those years, and they're expecting that to happen this year. And reality is, I doubt that's going to happen. That you're probably going to see the cost of living still be high, and housing prices and whatnot probably go up to skyrocketing. First-time buyers are going to have issues, having a hard time buying new houses or buying a new house for the first time. They're going to have issues at that point. Another aspect, another perspective as well to think of is this. Yes, I think people saw, based on how Trump is going to build out his cabinet and build out his advisors, per the first time around, they thought, hey, he was going to drain the swamp. But in reality was the people he got, they were still pretty much Republicans from that. I don't want to say Republicans, but they were still more focused on the business perspective of what the traditional Republican agendas were to be set. They were still from that perspective. Let big business drive the economy at that point. Now you got basically an Elon Musk, Dana, whatever his name is from UFC, Vivek, whatever his name is. I keep forgetting his last name. I even though I'm ending, I should know it myself, but I just know Vivek basically. Vivek B, whatever his name is. Anyways, and a few others at that point that he's pretty, and of course, the big one, of course, is Robert F. Kennedy. I think because the fact that he's got these people in place for him, basically, to the point where like it's still, they are not your norms. They're not the norms. That he probably will, take them under advisement for like how things should be going about and such. To the point where like he's probably gonna like say, hey, like Elon, go ahead, let's create an efficiency department, making things more efficient, more streamlined. Reality is, Musk is only looking out for himself. He's not going to care about the country because more so to the point of like he's going to try to make sure that not only Starlink but also Tesla as well as SpaceX gets all the benefits at that point. Because let's be honest, the EPA is holding off certain things from SpaceX to what they need to do, similar to what the Tesla super factories, gigafactories that are out there. The EPA is playing a huge factor, and then let's not forget the SEC, as well as the FTC and such. All the acronyms basically that are hindering Musk. He's going to try to It's like, yeah, we don't need you guys or whatever it may be, and let's go this route, etc. It's going to be more for himself. It's to a point where, like, eventually it'll come to a point where, like, Trump will be pissed off at Musk and, like, fire him because Musk will gain a little bit of the popularity at that point. The one that we need to really look at is Peter Thiel. That's the one that everyone's going to look at because, like, this is a guy where, like, if he needs something, I have a feeling they're going to do what Thiel's going to ask of. And that's going to be a big factor as well, too. Look, you got to keep a close eye on that aspect as well, too. But again, it all comes down to that aspect of, like, like, people, like, are tired of your traditional politicians, which I am too, honestly. But it's more so that I'd rather have a politician that's more focused on the country and the people itself. And that's what it comes down to. I'm hoping Trump focuses on that to the point where, like, he doesn't try to feed his ego to the point where, like, if something does happen, he's going to blame it on someone else rather than taking the blame for himself, basically. And reality is, I'll say this straight up and straightforward. I'm gearing up for another pandemic because why? You got to understand this. If you look closely, he withdrew money from the WHO. Because he withdrew money from the WHO, the WHO had no choice but to remove themselves from certain parts of the country, of certain countries at that point, and especially in China. Had the WHO been there, they probably could have, like, identified the coronavirus or COVID very quickly and let everyone know at that point. Let's be honest, like, during Obama's administration, you had basically the what's that called, the Ebola virus. The WHO were aware of it, and they were fully aware of it to the point, like, they notified the president before that they were fully prepared. In this situation, everything was getting blown out to the point where, like, it was done, and like, Trump didn't care. He only cared about, like, the economy at that point, and that's like, hey, like, businesses need to stay, businesses need to stay afloat, or not afloat, but stay open. He didn't care about the welfare of people, unless it affected him, but he didn't really care. But to the point, from that, I think we'll see a lot of things that will happen as a result. That's why I'm preparing, basically, because if he withdraws money again from the WHO, do not be surprised for another set of pandemics that are going to come about. And he's not going to do it. He basically, I think he's never learned his lessons from anything. He's always going to repeat exactly, and then he's going to put the blame on whoever at that point, and that's it. Now, there is another big thing that also plays a factor as well too into why Kamala Harris lost. I'm going a little bit too far over my allocated timeline. That I would always keep it off at 20 minutes, but or no more than 20 minutes. But this is a little bit more. And I try not to talk about politics, but I am talking about politics in this case because it's been 2 days and might as well talk about it. Another big thing I think is more so to the point when, like, Kamala Harris basically avoided the subject of the Gaza and Russia war to the point where the Russian-Ukrainian war, during Trump's reign, during Trump's presidency, first term presidency, nothing actually happened. I think people were too cautious enough that, like, hey, Trump's crazy enough to freaking nuke us and go into a world war, and he won't care. And that's why, people are like, oh, let's hold off a little bit. Whereas if Putin goes in during Biden, Putin, every other sane president or sane politician would, like, try to go the diplomatic route and not go the extreme of, like, I'm going to nuke you. I mean, honestly, Trump, this will be interesting to see what happens. Because, like, what's going to happen? Here's the worst part of what's going to happen. When Trump withdraws, because he's even said it himself, he's going to withdraw the funds because, like, he feels that we're paying too much money to Ukraine funding their war, basically. He's going to withdraw all that funding. When that happens, Ukraine's going to have no money practically. They're going to have no ability. NATO's not going to be able to help them out considerably. And to the point, like, Trump's going to withdraw from NATO at that point as well, too. That to the point where Russia will take over Ukraine. Once you take over Ukraine, look for the other countries. Look for the other Eastern European bloc countries fall under Russia. Trump's not going to do a thing. He's going to say, hey, don't do it. Realize they're going to do it anyways. And they're not going to care because he's not going to touch them. And then the whole thing with Gaza and, the Gaza and Palestine-Israel war, basically. I think it comes down to the factors is, let's be honest, like, even though Biden and Harris were trying to force a message like, look, we do support Israel, but we don't support what they're doing in Gaza by, like, trying to demolish it and, like, trying to eradicate practically all Palestinians and, like, try to reclaim Gaza. It's more so to the point where, like, everyone's got the impression that they are pro Israel and anti Gaza. And that's why you saw in Michigan, which is a pretty large Islamic base. There's a large Islamic base out there that they felt, because their association to Israel and the fact of the war and whatnot, they felt that Trump might not do that. He wouldn't be that crazy to like fund Israel. He'll probably talk to Habibi and Netanyahu basically to like rein him in basically from that perspective. Reality is that's not going to happen. Netanyahu's going to go crazy, and Trump's not going to care. He's like, hey, go for it. If you want to take over Gaza, take over Gaza. Hey, if you want to bomb Beirut, Lebanon, go for it. Bomb them. If you want to go after Iran, go for it. So long as they don't bother us. And Trump's not going to care at that point. And reality is, Iran's going to attack Israel. We're going to have to get into war with that. If that happens, and look, put it this way: if Iran and Israel go into war, and Russia goes over and takes over another country or two, or tries to invade another country or two, look for China to go into Taiwan, and we're going to be screwed because now the U.S. is going to have no choice but to get into 3 different wars, spread across thin, and we're going to be. It's going to be Trump's fault. He's not. It's not my fault. I bet you. And $5, Trump's going to say it's not my fault. This is Sleepy Joe's fault because like their administration didn't do anything to prevent this from the beginning, and that this is why it's happening because of him. He's not going to take responsibility for it. When in reality, it is his fault. And if it is, I tell you right here, right now, I will be on here every day on this platform, calling him out on it, basically telling him that this is all his fault. And when we're in World War III, it's because of him at that point, and that he will be the new Hitler at that point. But in any case, but that was one of the other aspects as well too. But let's be honest. Yeah, am I anti-Trump? Oh yes, by all means, I am definitely anti-Trump. Am I against some of? Look, I'll be honest. Some of his policies, I can understand what he's trying to do with his policies. It makes sense. I understand what he's trying to do. He's tired of all this, like, the BS that's going through with, with the political machine. And I understand that. It's great if he can, like, cut through that. But he's not going to. He has to put his own flavor of his own ego on there, and he'll never take responsibility. He wants to take. He won't take it. He'll take whatever he wants. That dictatorship rule. He's not going to have it. It's not going to happen. If it happens, we're going to rise. We will rise, and there will be, I hate to say it, but probably is going to be a civil war as well too. Most likely there will be. And the reason why I'm calling him a Hitler is like, yes, he's not, it's not more of like the anti Jewish sentiment more than, or anti-Semite sentiment more than anything else. It's not that. When I'm calling him a Hitler, it's more so to the point of like what he's doing, what he's allowing. He's allowing for other countries to like be invaded and whatnot, and the U.S. is just sitting back because like I don't care because like it doesn't affect us. How does it affect us? I don't care. It's like it's more of like me first mentality, which I understand, but that same aspect is like too. This is a global economy. You have to focus on being a global economy. Without being a global economy, we might be left behind. Don't be surprised with other countries when they band together, when they're out in space. Elon Musk will look, hey, look, no, SpaceX should be able to do this. Reality is, I won't be surprised for other countries funding their space programs to get us to Mars as quickly as possible compared to SpaceX. Yeah, SpaceX will try to do it from a commercial perspective, but these other countries hit there first. Yeah, it doesn't really help us out in that long term, right? And that's why I'm kind of curious. I have to repurchase Apple TV, but I'll go from there. I'll think about that much later. But anyways, I hate to say this, but this is the biggest thing more than anything else. It's pretty much Joe Biden. It is Joe Biden's fault that Kamala Harris lost. No one's about it. No, whatever you say, whatever you want to say, but look at it this way: if he doesn't run that second term, if he doesn't say I'm running for, if he steps away from running from a second term, we have a primary. We have a probably stronger candidate that could probably beat Donald Trump. It might not be Kamala Harris. It might be someone else. It might be another individual. That could have beaten him at that point. That would have worked out from that perspective. Now, I will say this. This is another reason that also comes back to that aspect with, Biden's fault a little bit, running a little late and all that stuff. Or, not running late, but like stepping way far later than he should have. It's Kamala Harris choosing Tim Walz. Tim Walz, great guy. He's not part of the political machine per se. And that's why I thought it was. That's why I thought I kind of liked it, because he was not part of that political machine. This is a history teacher that came up through the ranks as a teacher and going up through the ranks, and he learned, and he was a guy that doesn't like the BS and all that stuff. But historically speaking, had Kamala Harris chosen a Southerner, like us, a Southern Democratic senator or congressman actually, she might, or even governor, she might have won it. Might have won it. Because let's be honest, like Reagan, because like she's from the West, everyone's thinking, oh, she's too liberal and all that stuff. So like chances are she was never going to win. But if you had someone there as kind of like to gauge her a little bit, it might have helped her out. I mean, honestly, if she'd gotten someone from the Georgia Senate, one of those senators as her running mate, it might have worked out. I don't think there's a Texas Democratic senator or governor for that matter, but I think you look at it in historically speaking, like Ronald Reagan from California as well too. Him going against Carter, chances are he probably doesn't win it if he doesn't have Bush in his corner. He gets Bush, he wins each, those two terms, and then of course you have Bill Clinton winning, being a Southerner himself. George Herbert Bush, of course, winning because he's a Southerner. George W. Bush being a Southerner, winning himself. Now you're just like, oh yeah, well, what about Obama? Obama's not a Southerner, and what's his name? Essentially, well, actually, Obama's not a Southerner himself, and then Biden being not a Southerner as well. So it's like, hey, how they won? Yeah, but let's put it this way: Obama being the first black person, I think that was more so because of that. That's why he won it more than anything else. Is because on merit he should have won as well too. But reality is like if you talk to people back then, he was a black man. He was the first black man. We had to vote for him. Even Republican, uneducated people, they were like, yes, we had to vote for him at that point. So that's why they went after him at that point. That's why they voted for him. Hillary Clinton tried to do the route of going, the Tim Kaine route, a guy from Virginia or North Carolina, I can't remember. Yeah, Virginia. Problem is she was female, and I don't know. It's possible she had gotten someone from Georgia or from Texas. I think she could have won it then at that point. So I think, had Harris gotten someone from the South, she probably would have won it. Because, like, let's be honest. Look at Jack Kennedy. John F. Kennedy basically knew he needed someone, and that's why he got Lyndon Johnson, a Southern governor. And it worked out perfectly for him. So we're interested to see, like, who in the Democratic Party for the 2028 election year, who will become the predominant face of the Democratic Party. Everyone's saying Hakeem Jeffries. Yeah, but he's a New Yorker. It's great, but he's got to find someone on the South to be his partner at that point, his mate at that, his running mate at that point. So it's not going to be Kamala Harris. Let's be honest, it's not going to be Kamala Harris. Or is it possibly even AOC? Because in 2028 she becomes eligible to run for president. Will she be the one? She might be the new face. I don't know. It's possible not. I doubt. I'd be surprised if she did go for it because honestly, she's getting enough momentum, but I think she has to be up here to show that she can be president. And I don't know. We'll see what happens there. But in any case, yeah, I hate to say it's like, look, had Kamala Harris basically thrown Biden under the bus about the economy, it's possible she could have won at that point. But she avoided it because, it makes sense. You're not going to blame your boss. And at the same time, you are part of that administration for it. That's why I was afraid of, like, when she was nominated, I'm like, she doesn't have a shot because the economy's not that great. How is she going to explain it? And there was no way for her to explain. Yeah, you're going to force someone to say, you're going to probably try to educate. It's like, no, the economy's doing well. Look, between then when Trump left and what we did, it's far more down than what you think it is. There's no inflation. Inflation has dropped down considerably. 2019, when Trump was there, inflation was here. We're here. You might try to force feed it as much as you want to, but ultimately people are looking at their pockets. If they don't see $1 in their pocket and it's empty, who are they going to believe? You saying like, yeah, the economy's doing great versus I don't see any money in my pocket. So what are they gonna believe at that point? So I think that's what it came down to. And like the problem is like that's why I felt not her, but anyone outside of the Biden administration that would have ran and the primary probably would have won, and they could have used that against Biden. I had to say it, but they would have gone against Biden. They could have pretty much not sabotaged, but thrown him under the list. Like, yeah, his plan sucked. I have a better plan, and he probably come up with that at that point. Whereas Trump, he doesn't even have a plan on it. He's like, I'm going to tariff tariff all the foreign imports. And by the way, let's not forget, when he puts the tariffs on our imports, our exports are going to be heavily tariffed because like everyone's going to follow suit at that point, and like our products are not going to be bought out. And you can say, well, that means we can grow some of the stuff, or produce some of the stuff here in the states. Yeah, but what stuff? Bananas aren't grown here as much. Coffee is not. Again, unless we have a huge lithium and nickel mines and deposits in the United States, we're importing that raw material, and hence we're gonna have to buy out some stuff, similar to oil as well too. I mean, like let's be honest, it's gonna be a problem. I've gone off to longer than I talked, so let me know your thoughts. Put your comments in the comment section. Honestly, if you like this content, like this video, hit the like button. That'd be great because like it lets me know what I should focus on. If you see my videos and my content in this channel, I talk a lot more about sports and like reviews, more focusing on sports than anything else. I was talking a little bit about tech, but I haven't done that as of late. I probably might go back a little bit more back into it. I don't know. It depends what people like and what dislike. And then the aspect of if you haven't subscribed my channel, I do ask if you subscribe. You don't have to hit the notify button, but at least do subscribe. That'd be great. And from there, I'll leave it at that. As always, unfiltered, unedited, of course, always unrehearsed. Until next time.